So, hello everyone, and welcome to the safety and first aid part of this course. I'm Hakan, and today we're going to talk about lab safety, first aid procedures, emergency situations, and so on. Before we begin, let me tell you that, this video is going to be a short one, and we will not be able to cover the whole diverse situations that we can encounter in our normal daily life. So, if you want to have a proper education and proper understanding in first aid, then I suggest you to apply to, for example, our student club in ODTU. It is lifeguarding and first aid student club. That's where I'm from. The name is OCİT, by the way. You can apply to Kızılay if you want. You can find some online resources, but of course be mindful about which website are you looking at. And yeah, that's all. So let's begin. So, what is first aid? So, in this video, we will give a brief idea about first aid, and we will introduce some basic stuff that we have to know about in this course, in our laboratory. So, what is first aid? First aid is in any kind of accident or a life-threatening situation that we can encounter in our daily lives, for example, and especially, and hopefully not, in our lab. It is a drug-free practice, okay, performed with existing tools and equipment at the scene. So without seeking any kind of fancy medical equipment, just the things that we find on the scene, and it is done so that we can save lives or prevent the situation from getting worse until the proper medical healthcare is arrived at the scene. Okay. So what are the primary objectives of first aid? To ensure the maintenance of the vital functions, to prevent the casualty's condition from worsening, and facilitating recovery. So the third one, this is really important. The reason for that is, so facilitating means making it easier. So we're actually trying to make the situation get better, trying to make the recovery get easier, okay? So we're not actually trying to cure people. We cannot do that. Medical healthcare professionals will be doing that, okay, afterwards. We're just trying to make the recovery easier. So, having distinguished that, so we have 3 steps in first aid. The first one is ensuring the safety. The second one is getting help, and the third one is administering first aid. So what does it all mean? The first one is ensuring safety. So it is basically ensuring the safety of the environment, of yourself. So, for example, there could be fires going around. There could be loose cables that could give you electric shock. I don't know. There could be any kind of, serious, dangerous stuff all around. So make sure that you're safe first, and then help others. Make sure the environment is safe, you're safe, and then help others. So, in our lab, for example, we will be talking about it, but still, in our lab, we need to adhere to some rules, and we need to also read our lab documents really carefully, okay? The second one is getting help. So, something happened, for example, I ensured my safety, ensured the environment's safety, and now I'm going to call for help. Because if I don't do that, if I just go and help people without calling for any help, then it would be senseless. No one's gonna come to help us when I administer first aid. So I call 112 in Turkey. Okay, this is the proper number. In the US, it is 911. You've heard from the movies and TV shows, for example, but it is 112 in Turkey. So don't forget it. And then I call 112 and say what happens, where it happens, for example, ODTU electronics laboratory, I don't know. And then I tell how many casualties there are. So, for example, there may be 2 people, and I need to ask for 2 ambulances, because 1 ambulance means only 1 person. Okay, so if you ask for only 1 ambulance, but there are 3 people on the ground, then the other 2 won't be able to get proper medical health care in time. So I tell how many casualties there are. I also introduce myself in the beginning so that they know who I am. And then tell my number also, phone number, I mean, so that they can trust us, that we're not, prank calling, and that's it. And in the third step, we administer the first aid. We do the correct procedures so that the casualty, so that we can satisfy these objectives. Okay. So now, in our laboratory, we have strong motors, and these strong motors have really high-speed revolution, okay? They revolve really high speed, and they have some open parts like you see here, and we don't want to get caught up in those, okay? We don't want to get close to them. So, also we don't want our, necklace, earrings, rings, or any kind of other parts, loose clothes, for example, scarves that we wear in the winter, we don't want these stuff to get caught up in the rotating parts. Okay, so we take them off, leave it in the at the entrance, at the clothes hanger, something like that, and we keep away from the rotating parts all the time. So we will be dealing with high voltage, high current electric, and that's why it's posing us a risk, and that's why we need to be careful. So in the laboratory, the floor is wooden so that it is more insulating. And the cables are, of course, obviously insulated so that we don't get an electric shock. But make sure that you connect these ends properly. So make sure that they are attached, okay? And to change the circuitry, for example, you want to change the circuitry, please turn the switch off first so that you make sure that the power source is off, and then change the circuitry, do what you're going to do, and then turn it on again, okay? If you change the circuitry while the system is on, the power source is on, then there's a high chance of getting caught up in the electric shock. And we don't want that, obviously, so don't do it, be careful. And don't work with wet hands, because water actually increases the conductivity. And work with your right hand, if possible. Okay, why? Why does it mean? What does that mean? So, by the way, in the video right now, recording, this is my right hand. The image is mirrored, so this is my right hand. So, why right hand? If possible, try not to work with two hands, because you may make a closed circuit with the equipment. You're touching the equipment, and it could be a closed circuit, and the current could flow from here. Okay, we don't want it. So one hand is better. Okay, but why right hand? Because the heart is on the left, and we don't want the current, to reach to the heart. So if we're using our right hand, it is more difficult for the current to reach our heart. That's the reason. And what else? Yeah, that's it. So let's say something happened in the laboratory, and one of us had an electric shock. What are we going to do? First thing we do is we make sure that the environment is safe. So how do we do that? Wait, I will explain it in a second, but let me tell you that first you make sure the environment is safe, so that first you are safe, and then you help others. We do that by, firstly, we will talk about this slide, but wait. Firstly, switching these parts off. So this switch, for example, if it's on, you turn that switch off. If these switches are on, you turn these switches off. If these switches are on, okay, these are all, by the way, next to your table. So this is a variac, and that is a variable auto transformer. And there we have some switches, like I've shown here, and we first need to make sure that they're off. There are so many switches, and turning them off would be enough for us. So this is the switches that we see on our table, and even at the entrance of the laboratory, there are some switches, okay? And we can just, for each table, and we can just turn them off so that there's no more electricity. But if we can't turn them off, for example, then with the help of an insulating object, okay, the connection between the casualty and the power source is disconnected. So what kind of an insulating object can we have? For example, we cannot turn the switch off, so and we want the person to, get disconnected. We can use a stick. We can use our chair, for example, or I don't know. You can even kick that person with your shoe. So if your shoe is obviously insulating. So there are some things like that, and options like that, I mean, and just get the person disconnected from the source. That's the main idea. We talked about the switches over here. Let me show them again. So if you want to have the power source off, just use these switches. So okay, the environment is safe. Let's say we got rid of the electricity. So what do? Normally, wait a sec. So what do? We do like this. We get close to the person, we approach the person, and we gently shake from the shoulders, and we ask whether or not they can hear us. So for example, we can say, hey, can you hear me? Are you okay? We can ask things like that, and then we are actually trying to get a response from them, okay? See if they're conscious or not. And let's say they're not conscious. So what do we do in that when that happens? So if the casualty is unconscious, we tell a random person in the environment, hey, you, call 112, and tell what happened, where it happened, how many casualties there are, and tell the situation, introduce yourself, okay? We say these stuff to the person who's calling 112, and then we ourselves apply the first aid. But how do we do that? So we need to know about the ABC of first aid. So ABC, so the initials, airway, breathing, and circulation, ABC. Let's talk about them. So airway is, it should be checked first. So before doing anything else, we check the consciousness, and then we call, and there's no conscious, for example, we tell another person to call 112, and then we check the airway. If there is anything inside the mouth, for example, we take it out. And if possible, if you have gloves with you, so for example, I'm carrying gloves with me all the time. It can be really compact, and you could carry it in your bag. Unfortunately, there isn't any gloves in the first aid kit, as far as I know. If you have, it's okay. If you don't, it's also okay. Take the object inside the airway and take it out, okay? And so that the person can breathe more easily when he or she could breathe, before she could breathe. The airway. So that was just airway. Then breathing. So we took the thing that was blocking the airway, if there is any, of course. And then we try to see if the person is breathing or not, because that's a really important information. We firstly tilt the head like this and lift the chin up like this. And when we do that, you see that this airway is totally open, so that it is more convenient for the person to breathe. And then for 10 seconds, breathing is checked with the look, listen, and feel methods. So with the eyes here, we check if the chest is moving or not. With the ear here, we try to listen if the person is breathing or not. And with the feel method, we actually try to see if there is any, breath coming to our cheek or ear, and if our hand is moving or not. So that's it. Look, listen, feel method. We do that for 10 seconds, not more than 10 seconds and not less than 10 seconds, because 10 seconds is the ideal amount of time to identify if the person is breathing or not. If, let's say, the person is both unconscious and not breathing, it's a really serious situation. And in that serious situation, we need to also do CPR. So CPR is an acronym, and it is actually, the long version of it is cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Say that 10 times, okay? It's a difficult thing to say. Yeah, I know. But you may also know this as heart massage in popular culture. So what is it? It is the emergency life-saving procedure that is done when someone's breathing or heartbeat has stopped. And CPR combines both rescue breathing and chest compressions. So we will talk about those. I'm going to show those. The chest compressions, these things that we do, ensure a small amount but crucial amount of supply of blood to the heart and brain. Okay, and rescue breaths ensure a minimum supply of oxygen in the blood circulation. So with CPR, we're actually using ABC. C stands for the circulation, and we do that by CPR. So how do we do that in reality? So we first, this bone is called the sternum, and with our fingers like this or this, we find the midpoint here. Okay, and after we find the midpoint, we place our strong hand. For example, I use my right hand. I'm going to find the midpoint and then put my right hand here, and then because it's stronger for me to use, and my weak hand on top of it, and then I'm going to massage it like this. And let's see. Yeah, this is the massage. This is the CPR. So while doing that, be careful not to bend your elbows, because if you do that, you will not be able to apply a straight good force. Okay, and we're applying a downward orthogonal straight force. Okay, with a speed of 100 beats per minute. What does that mean? So in a minute, if I have a chronometer and then have 1 minute, I have to apply 100 beats in that minute, and it should be rhythmic. Okay. And if you cannot do that, for example, you can play "Staying Alive" from Bee Gees. That's a song, probably you know that. Staying Alive, Staying Alive. That's a good song. And you can also play that. It is 100 beats per minute, so it might help you. Okay, so this is the speeds, but I'm going to first apply 30 beats like this with this speed. Okay, and then after 30 beats, 30 chest compressions, I need to apply 2 rescue breaths. And in order for me to do these rescue breaths, I need to, again, lift the chin up, tilt the head, okay, and then hold the nose this time, so that the air that I'm going to apply from my mouth doesn't come out, okay? And, I'm just exhaling from my mouth and giving some crucial but a small but a crucial amount of oxygen, okay? And while doing that, please remember that you're not actually trying to fill an air balloon. Okay, you're just you just give a little bit of air in your mouth, the total air in your mouth, and that's it. You're not trying to fill a balloon. And so, okay, the order is like this: 30 beats, first rescue breath, wait for 1 second so that the air comes out, and then second rescue breath, and then wait for 1 second again, and then 30 beats again. Okay, so yeah. What else? So, did I talk about everything? Yes. Okay, now, we continue this process until the ambulance arrives. It is really important to not let go of this process, okay? Until the ambulance arrives, try to do that, please. Yeah. And some people, for example, don't want to breathe and give rescue breaths, for example, from the mouth. And it's understandable, especially in this pandemic. So you can choose not to give any rescue breaths if you want. But then you just keep continuously doing the chest compressions with the speed of 100 beats per minute. Okay. So the defibrillators, automated external defibrillators, and these are really nice machines that is getting really popular, and they are also getting included in the first aid kits. So, and they are really life-changing machinery. They are really life-changing. So, how do we use that? There are some, okay, the orders like this. So first the environment, the safety of the environment, safety of yourself. Then the consciousness, okay, of the person. We approach the person and ask for the consciousness. If the person is not conscious, we tell the other person around, hey, call the ambulance. That is the third step. Then the fourth step is checking the ABC of the person. So airway, breathing. So let's assume that the person is also not breathing. So not conscious, not breathing. I'm going to have to do the CPR. Okay. Then at this point, I can tell another person to go get me the automated external defibrillator, or just in short, defibrillator. And that while that person is coming to me, I'm going to apply CPR, do the CPR, and when that person comes, they can connect the pads to the casualty, and then the defibrillator will automatically start, and will start giving commands to you. So it will say, for example, okay, checking the heartbeats, get off the patient, for example, get clear. I'm going to give electric shock, for example. It just gives you these commands, and when you follow it, everything is fine. But unfortunately, right now, we don't have these defibrillators in our university in Matthew. So I hope that we can see these in the following semesters, or I don't know. I don't actually know any place that has defibrillators also in Turkey, but maybe there is, not my knowledge. So yeah. These are automatic devices, in short. So let's say the patient is not conscious, okay, but breathing. So what are we going to do then? So by the way, the order of these pictures is kind of mixed. So the first one is this, okay. Sorry, let me start from the beginning. So the patient is unconscious but breathing. What do? We give the recovery position, and the recovery position is this. How do we give that? It is like that, like this. So I have the arm of the casualty here, and then in the second picture, this is the second picture, and then I bend the knee of the casualty. Then from the shoulder and from the knee, I roll the person to the other side, and also have this arm extended so that this is an axis for us to rotate the person, and then at the end, the person is in this situation. Okay, but why do we do that? Why do we give unconscious but breathing casualties this position? Because these people tend to have, tend to vomit, and we don't want them to choke on their own vomits, or they may have internal bleeding, for example, and we don't want these people to choke on their own blood. So we want them to get the blood or vomit out easily and still continue to breathe in. Okay. When we give a position to any of the casualties, this position, we need to check regularly if the casualty is still breathing. Okay, so regularly until the ambulance comes, we need to check the breathing of that person. By the way, this position is also called the coma position in Turkish. Okay, so we talked about unconscious not breathing situation, unconscious breathing situation, but we didn't talk about conscious and breathing situation. So what happens then? So if the casualty is conscious but heavily injured, for example, he or she may be heavily injured, feeling a severe sense of pain, or cannot feel their limbs, for example, the casualty, when these, for example, happen, the casualty should not be moved. That's really important. Should not be moved. 112 should be called, and until the health professionals arrive, the casualty should not be given any kind of food, beverages, including water, okay, and should be kept conscious. So you need to talk with this person at all times in order for them to stay awake, okay? And give emotional first aid also. So yeah, be there with that person, okay? If the pain, for example, due to the electric shock, so this person might have, or you might have, got an electric shock, for example, and feel that the pain is not lessening after 5 minutes, let's say, then, or for example, if you have a burn due to an electric shock, and in these two situations, you shouldn't think like, oh, okay, it will be a problem. You shouldn't be thinking like that. You should immediately apply to a health institution and get good healthcare. Okay, it's really important, and not to mess up it. And also, if you have an electric burn, a burn due to an electric shock, you might apply water, but there's a really strong big but. If you're not, so if there's no any loose electric cable, for example, or any kind of electric contact, so that when you apply water, you're not making the situation so much worse. Okay. Be careful. So now, these are all the things that I was going to talk. Oh, by the way, if the if the casualty gets, for example, he or she was conscious and breathing, for example, but lose consciousness, for example, what are we going to do? Give the casualty recovery position. Let's say he or she also lost the breathing, so they're not breathing anymore. Then we need to do CPR. And while doing CPR, please make sure that the casualty is on a concrete and straight surface, so that you can apply CPR well. So it shouldn't be like a bed or, I don't know, squishy floor. Okay, it should be concrete and straight. So these are all the things that I was going to talk about today. I hope you had a bit of understanding about the first aid. So this is, by the way, the symbol for our student club. So OCİT, it stands for Lifeguarding and First Aid Society Student Club, whatever you say. And please remember that it is really important to get proper education in first aid, because 90%. Okay, imagine that 90% of the time we're spending it with our family and friends. So there is a 90% of probability that we may encounter a life-threatening situation with our family and friends. Okay, so this means 90% of chance you're going to have to apply first aid to your, closer ones, to your friends, to your family, and not a 10% of a chance you will be applying it to a random stranger on the street. So it is really important to get involved and get proper education. And I really wish that I would like to see you in our club also, or I don't know, get proper education from somewhere. It doesn't matter. And I also want to thank Murat Hoca, Emine Hoca, and Ozan Hoca for this opportunity. And I wish you good luck. Stay safe. Cheers.